The head of the Russian-controlled Donetsk region, Denis Pushilin, claimed Russian forces had controlled more than 75% of the town of Bakhmut by Monday. Denis Pushilin released a video of himself on Telegram, where he said he was visiting Bakhmut, a battlefield that has been heating up since a few months ago. He was wearing body armor and standing among the wreckage. Moments later, an explosion can be heard in the background of the video. I can say with absolute certainty that more than 75% of the city of Bakhmut is under the control of our unit, said Denis Pushilin on the TV channel, Rossiya 24. However, he warned it was too soon to say the town of Bakhmut had fallen to the Russian side completely. In another posting video, Denis Pushilin is seen in an unknown underground location, as reported by Reuters. He visited fighters from the Wagner Group mercenaries fighting in Bakhmut, Ukraine. The commander of the Ukrainian ground forces, Colonel General Alexander Syrsky, said Russian troops used scorched earth techniques in the city of Bakhmut. He said Russian troops destroyed buildings and positions of Ukrainian troops with air and artillery strikes. The enemy is turning to the so-called scorched earth tactics from Syria. These techniques destroy buildings and positions with airstrikes and artillery fire, he said, quoted by the Jerusalem Post. Syrsky said Russian forces deployed special forces and airstrike units to the battle to give Wagner's personal mercenary group a break. The Wagner Group has been spearheading the Russian offensive against Bakhmut for months. The situation is difficult but manageable, said Alexander Syrsky while describing the positions of Ukrainian troops on Monday, quoted by DW. Britain's Ministry of Defense said Russia also appeared to have stepped up its armored strikes around the town of Marinka, also in Donetsk province, over the past week. Russia continues to give high priority to operating resources in the wider Donetsk sector, including the Marinka and Avdiivka regions, expending significant resources for minimal profits, he said, quoted by RTE. Ukrainian troops have been holding out for months in the town of Bakhmut. Donetsk is one of 4 provinces in eastern and southern Ukraine that Russia declared annexation last year. Russia is seeking to occupy all 4 of those areas, which it is aiming at war with after failing to invade the country in the immediate aftermath of its invasion in February 2022. Meanwhile, the city of Bakhmut has been one of Russia's main targets in its war on Ukraine since February 2022. Conquering the city of Bakhmut would open up the possibility of future raids across Ukraine. Deputy Foreign Minister of Ukraine visits India, discusses war situation and global issues. Ukraine's Deputy Foreign Minister, Amin Japarova, arrived in India on Monday. For his 4-day official visit, Amin Japarova's visit is the first visit by a Ukrainian government minister since the Russian invasion last year. What's the agenda? According to Al Jazeera, Amin Japarova is scheduled to meet with a delegation from India's foreign ministry to discuss the current situation in Ukraine and global issues of common interest, according to the Indian government. The Indian Hindu newspaper reported that Japarova would ask India to send a strong message for peace to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin will visit India in July for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. Putin will also return to India in September for the G20 summit. The Indian Council of World Affairs, a New Delhi-based organization, said on Twitter that Japarova would also give a speech on Tuesday entitled Russia's War in Ukraine: Why the World Should Care. Rajeswari Rajagopalan, director of the Center for Security, Strategy and Technology at the Observer Research Foundation in New Delhi, said he was confident India would use the visit to discuss issues including food security, energy security and various fertilizer shortages. The war in Ukraine had a major impact on global supply chains and international trade in food and fertilizers, disproportionately affecting the global south. Both Ukraine and Russia are major suppliers of key food commodities, such as wheat, corn, and sunflower oil. Russia is also the largest global fertilizer exporter. India is also projecting itself as the voice of the global south, so India hosts messages for a large number of countries that may face certain difficulties caused by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Rajagopalan said. The Hindu newspaper quoted a diplomatic source as saying Ukraine had requested more humanitarian aid from India, including medicine, medical equipment and energy equipment to repair power infrastructure damaged during the war. In October, Russia began attacking Ukraine's energy infrastructure, hitting thermal and hydropower plants and power grids. The attacks damaged about 60% of Ukraine's power plants and more than 40% of its high-voltage grid infrastructure. As a result, Ukrainians experienced rotating blackouts from October to February. But warmer weather and efficient repairs may improve the situation in recent months. Energy Minister Herman Halashenko later authorized energy exports after the system generated nearly 2 months of extra capacity. However, energy transmission system operator Ukrenergo warns against complacency. Ukrainian energy companies are now sourcing equipment ahead of an anticipated strike next winter. There are companies in India that manufacture transformers, said Antonina Antonsha, a spokeswoman for DTEK, Ukraine's largest private energy provider. He said it could be a lengthy process lasting 9 to 12 months. India's position in the Russo-Ukrainian War since Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine on the 24th of February 2022, India has taken a non-aligned approach to the war. India is considered to want to maintain good diplomatic relations with the West and Russia. India hosted the Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, a few months ago, and now we are hosting the Ukrainian Deputy Foreign Minister. India has had close ties and tight defense ties with Russia for decades. Moscow is India's biggest arms supplier. After the outbreak of the Ukrainian war, New Delhi boosted imports of Russian oil at discounted prices. In December, India imported 1.2 million barrels of Russian crude, 33 times more than the previous year. In September, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Russian President Vladimir Putin. The two leaders called their countries' friendship unbreakable. India has frequently abstained from voting on UN resolutions condemning the war in Ukraine. But India has also indirectly voiced concern over Russia's actions, highlighting the importance of the UN Charter, international law, and respect for the country's sovereignty and territorial integrity. In September, Modi told Putin at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit in Uzbekistan, "I know that the current era is not an era of war, and I have spoken to you by phone about this." The Indian government has also sought open channels of communication with the office of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky since the outbreak of war. In October, Modi told Zelensky in a telephone call that there was no military solution to the war in Ukraine. 3 months later, Zelensky said he had asked India's help to implement a peace formula with the Indian Prime Minister,